Okay, I am up on my roof, and these are the two 100-watt solar panels that I'm going to replace. Now, these panels are over 5 years old, and you can see the way that I installed them is I used an aluminum plate that's 1/4 inch thick, and I stuck this aluminum plate to the roof with 5952 VHB tape, and then I simply went around it with die-core. Let's see, I used the non-self-leveling, so I could basically put it around like a bead of caulk. And that was really just to seal the edges of the VHB tape. And then I had already, drilled and put screws in this 1/4 inch plate, so then I could simply loosen the nuts and remove these panels whenever I needed to. So this VHB mounting system, I don't drill any holes in my roof, and I don't want new holes in my roof other than what Leisure's already done. So this is just VHB tape, and like I said, these have been here for longer than 5 years, and they are rock solid. I mean, nothing about this system is moving. I mean, you know, bottom line, they're rock solid. Now, this was my second set. I basically just put solar panels up in sets of 2 as I felt more confident in the way I wanted to mount them. So here's my very first 2 that I put in. And for this method, which was my very first method, I did the same thing with the aluminum plate with bolts sticking out of it. Nothing screwed into the roof. And I stuck these plates on with VHB tape, but then I covered them with a Turnabont tape for a second set of redundancy. So you can see this basically has 2 forms of adhesion, and again, this does not move. And these panels are older than 7 years. They've been on the roof for 7 years, and there's nothing about the way they're mounted that is loose, that is coming up, anything. So, feeling very confident about this system is why I went with just VHB tape by itself, trimmed out in die-core. So I say all this basically to say that if you just simply used VHB tape all by itself, it would completely stick fine to the roof, and you'd have years and years of solid solar panel adhesion to your roof. But I still don't like to rely on just one form of adhesion, which basically, this is. So the solar panel mounting system I use today is just VHB tape on these little feet, and then I just put a strip of Eternabond tape over the top of them, and that's how I stick solar panels to the roof today. That's my no drill stick-on mounting system. And I've helped, literally hundreds of people do their solar panels that way, and never, ever, ever has any panel come off. So, I tell you all this so you do what you want with your solar panels, but for my new set of tilt solar panel mounts, I'm going to use my VHB tape to stick the frames on, and then I'm just going to put one covering of one strip of Turnabond tape, and that'll be my redundant adhesion. So now to remove these panels, I'm going to use my friend Danny Grondin's method, and he basically used an oscillating blade to cut between, basically to cut the die core off of his flex panels, but I thought it would be a good way to cut into and separate the VHB tape. Okay, I've decided I'm going to take this off, these panels off. I think it'd just be easier to get these plates off. So the way I designed this is you use a screwdriver to hold the bolt that's in this plate, and then you use, in this case, you use a 7/16 wrench, which I can't do with both hands, but then you use the wrench to loosen the nut. So I will basically remove all these feet from my aluminum plates, and then I'll be able to get on with getting the plates off the roof. Now, this is the exact reason why I wanted to install, one of the reasons why I wanted to install tilt mounts. When you lift this panel up, you see how much stuff, in my case living in South Carolina, pine needles, collects under these solar panels, and of course they get dirty. Okay, so this is why tilt mounts will really let you keep your roof cleaner. Alright, so the reality is this blade only goes in about this far, but that whole plate is covered with VHB tape. So I have a big knife here. I've got my little pry tool. I do have longer other kinds of blades, so I am going to see, and it's not even really budging. So I am going to try different things, and I'll tell you what works the best. Okay, what I am finding that works best, here's the last one I've done. So I'm getting better at it. So what I'm finding that works best is if I just use this blade and go around and put it in as far as I can, all the way around. And then I use my little pry tool and get under there and start prying it. And then I put this part of this tool under this way, and I use that to pry it off. And I also have another little prier that I put under there. So I'm going to keep going with what I've got, and call it a day when I get too tired. But basically it's taken me like 30 minutes one of these feet, so it's quite a job to get 8 of them off the roof. All right, I've got my roof clean. And I've got my little panel where I drilled into my roof to run this set of wires to one of my solar controller, which goes to this Bouger V6 panel. So the roof is cleaned up. This is the morning of day 3, so that's how long it took me. Basically, I'm going to call it 2.5 days to remove the panels, get those 8 feet off the roof that were VHB taped on, which was ridiculously hard, but that's a testimony to how good VHB tape solar panel mounting is. And then get this whole roof clean. Now, the major items that I used to get the roof clean is, so this is what I used to clean the roof. Zep, mold stain, and mildew stain, and it actually has bleach in it. And then rapid remover, adhesive remover. Now I actually buy a 32-ounce bottle, and this was the original little bottle I bought to try it. But this stuff, it works fantastic for getting anything sticky off. Now, other things that do work, like this mineral spirit substitute, works pretty good. If you don't want to buy the rapid remover, adhesive remover, Windex is also, sometimes I use that. basically when I'm doing more of a light clean. There's a Mr. Eraser pad, but to clean this roof, to get all the sticky off, I just used the Rapid Remover and the Zep, and you can see what a difference the roof is from when I started. Okay, so now I am first going to pull the new wiring. I'm going to pull 2 pairs of 8 gauge wire up here. This wire that I use for my Bouge RV panels, it's only 10 gauge, but I want to pull 8 gauge. So then I have 3 pairs of 8 gauge wire. So in case I, in the future, if I want to expand or replace anything, I got plenty of wiring for anything that I might put up here on the roof. I'm also going to pull a pair of 14 gauge wires, so if I ever wanted to power, say permanently mount a Starlink or anything else, I can do that. So I'll just coil that up for whenever I actually want to use it, and then I'm going to be running my WeBoost antenna booster antenna wire. I had that originally before I got Starlink, so I'm just going to keep it because you never know when you need, a cell booster instead of, if you can't get Starlink to work. So, so that's what I'm going to do next before I start putting the solar panels up. Okay, so I unhooked the 10 gauge wire that I had connected to the solar controller for my Bouge RV SIGS panel, and I'm going to use this to pull a new set of wires. I still have to add 2 8 gauge wire pairs to this, but I'm going to use this wire to pull all the wires back up to the roof. And like I said, I'm using my TV cabinet, so that wire I originally ran through the bottom of the TV cabinet, and then right behind the breaker box, it goes along the floor there and into this hole. It's basically on the refrigerator wall, and then I pulled it up through the side, up between the side of the refrigerator and the wall, out through this hole. This is the opening for the microwave. I took the microwave out. So out through this hole in the microwave shelf, across and up through the hole that I drilled in the roof. So I'm definitely going to have to drill a larger hole now. But I will at least pull my bundle of wires up to this point, and then I can pull this wire out and drill a larger hole in the roof, and then push all the wires up through the roof. Okay, I've got my 2 8 gauge wires and my pair of 14 gauge wires pulled up through. I used a series of pieces of, I'm going to call them thin rope, to pull the cables up through the wall between my refrigerator wall, the refrigerator and the wall, and up out through this hole. All right, so I've got all the wire. I've got all my cables pulled now. I just need to go up on the roof and pull out that 10 gauge, my old 10 gauge wire, and drill a new hole so I can push all these wires up through and continue on top of the roof. Okay, I'm going to finish pulling this 10 gauge wire out, and there's my hole. And I'm going to use a 7/8 step bit. I think 7/8 of an inch will probably be the right size hole, but I will drill it out and see. If that's not the right size hole, I have a lot of other different size bits. So I can definitely get the whole size that I'm going to need one way or the other. Okay, I ended up drilling a 1 3/8 hole. Probably a little bit larger than I needed, but I've got it done. Okay, so now I can start bringing my wires up, and you can see that the construction of the roof is basically this, what I call a PVC board, a wooden board, then all styrofoam until you get to the ceiling, which is also a little thin wood board, then covered by the vinyl. Okay, I have this solar gland that I've pushed my wires through, and underneath I've sealed the hole with butyl tape. I always do that just as a precaution. And then I've put VHB tape on the bottom. So I'm just going to clean this. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to mention as I was doing this. I use 3M. I use 3M adhesive promoter for the final prep, because the key to making VHB tape stick very, very well to your roof is a very clean and prepared surface. And this adhesion promoter, it does the final preparation to the surface, so this will stick down on the roof very well. So I'm going to do that and stick it on and come back. Okay, so I've got this put down now. All the wires are nice and tight. This is nice and tight. Okay, so now I am going to put some butyl tape around here just to make sure these holes are sealed, and I'm going to cover the whole thing with Dicor. So I'll do that. Okay, so I've got all this tidied back up. I left that green little rope. I left that pulled through in case I ever need to pull anything through that. That basically my raceway down between the refrigerator. So I've got all that buttoned up. I'm going to put some Eternabond tape around that hole to seal that off. But this is done, and I can put the microwave back in. All right, so I put some Eternabond tape around that to seal it off. Eternabond tape makes a good vinyl sealing patch if you ever need it. Okay, so I've started zip tying my cables together. So they're coming out of that hole in the refrigerator, and they're running down there on the floor. And then over across my TV cabinet, and then over to the opening where the fire extinguisher is. Okay, so I've got all that done. Now it's time for me to start wiring my solar controllers. So I have to figure out where I'm going to put my third solar controller. So let me get started. Okay, and my solar controller output need to attach to my dual bus bar system that's under this Victron Lynx power in cover. So I've got to take that apart and decide how I want to run a cable so my new 3 solar controllers can come down and directly attach to my 12-volt bus. So let me get started on that. I don't want to have to take my Victron Lynx apart again, so I've actually run a larger cable. I'm going to put them on a circuit breaker, so in the future, if I want to attach other things, I don't have to take this all apart. So I'm going to cover this with cover it with wire loom, but you can see I have a ground cable, and up there I have an additional negative cable, positive cable, sorry. So I've got a positive cable attached to the bus bar there. I've got a ground cable attached there, and they're both coming out right here and out here. I'm gonna, cut them off and basically put some bus bars here and a circuit breaker there, so I can always just attach when I want power. Okay, so I've got wire loom over that wire, and down here, as I said, I'm going to be cutting it off and putting a circuit breaker so I can add more things to it in the future if I need just a power supply. Hopefully I've got some future proofing here where I'm not going to have to take this all apart. So now I've got to get that cover back in place, and I will be at least done with making my attachment for my new solar controller to the to my 12 volt bus bar system. I had to do some trimming here on the case so I could get that to fit back down without because of the 2 new wires I have in there. So that's all put back together. I'll just get on with making my connections for these wires. Okay, so I replaced my, it was easy to replace my 130 with this 150. I didn't change the wires. I already had 8 gauge wires from the solar panels and to the batteries. So since I'm only expecting a maximum of under 40 amps, I'm just going to leave my circuit breakers, everything that I already have set up the way they are until down the road if I decide, to add more, have to change the wiring for some reason. So this is done. Now on to replacing this smaller one. It's going to be a little bit more of a challenge because the 100/30 is larger, so I have to see if I can fit it in the same space. So I'll get on with that. So I was able to get this 130 controller in the same place as my old 7515, so that's going to work out fine. So next thing I need to do is find a place for my third 150 solar controller. So let me get going on that. I might have mentioned, but this is my TV cabinet. It's right behind my coach battery switch. So I'm putting all my solar controllers right inside my TV cabinet. Okay, I mounted my second 150 solar controller on some white PVC boards, and I VHB taped them to the wall. And now I'm going to put a couple of screws in it to hold them down. But both of them fit along the wall in my TV cabinet in my Murphy bed. I have a Unity Murphy bed. So that's the perfect location, and I'll get on with my installation. So I've got my wires connected as much as I can. I have my battery positive and negative. I have the solar breaker connected. So when I bring down my solar wire from the roof, I'll just hook it to that positive. And then I will have also have to put its negative in there. But other than that, I have my a second 150 solar controller wired up and in place. So now I just have to get on the roof and bring my solar wires down. I will go under where I was working in my battery compartment and make all my connections to the batteries so I can get the batteries turned back on. Okay, here is a top-down view of my two 100/50 solar controllers and circuit breakers. And then there is and then here is the top down for all my solar controllers that are in my TV cabinet. Okay, so I got my new common ground in for the solar panel, and like I said, this traces back to the negative bus bar right here, this cable right here. The negative bus bar, you can just see the nut in there, on my bus bar, 12-volt bus bar distribution center. And then here is the other wire on the positive side, and I put it on a 100 amp circuit breaker. So in the future, if I want to add anything that I need power for, I can either put it on this side of the circuit breaker or the battery hot side of the circuit breaker. So that's just, for future, so I don't have to keep taking this panel out and opening that whole bus bar up every time I want to get to a power connection. So this is all done now for my new the third 150 solar controller I added, and I can get on with my solar panel installation. Okay, I've marked my two new 8-gauge panels. These are my Shadowflux panels, and they're going up to that second controller up there. And this is for my Bouge RV SIG single 200 watt panel, and that's going to be going on this solar controller. So now I just have to strip my wires and make the connections. My positive connection for this panel is going to go right here on this circuit breaker, and then of course the negative is going to go on the negative terminal, and the same with this wire. It's going to be going on this circuit breaker, and then of course the negative is going to go up there in that solar controller. I'm going to use a couple of ferrules on the negatives to go into the solar controller, and 1/4 inch 8-gauge lugs to go on my connections for my circuit breaker. So let me get on with that. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I've already coiled up my 14 gauge wire pair, a black and a red, that I also ran on top of the roof for any kind of future roof power supplies that I might need. 12-volt power supply. Okay, I used my ferrule crimper and put a ferrule on the end of that, so this will fit perfectly up inside the square terminal of the solar controller. So we'll get on installing that. Okay, so I've got all those, that black wire on the panel voltage side, and I've got my red wire hooked to my circuit breaker. So my 200 watt Bouge RV6 panel is now all connected. I just need to do the connections on the roof. I've got my two 200 watt Renogy panels now connected to its own circuit breaker, which I will use as my solar panel power disconnect. So I've got my negative put up there in my top new 100/50 solar controller, and that will take, I'm hoping I'll get the 500 watt output from these solar panels that the manufacturer Renogy claims they can do. So that'll be great. I can't wait to test them. And now I've got all my solar controllers hooked up, and I am ready to go back up on the roof and get my get all the solar panels wired back with my new wiring. So I'll do that next. Okay, here is my finished solar gland covered with dicor. Now I need to do my roof wiring. I have to do my MC4 connectors on my two cables, and then I can get my solar panels up. Okay, so I've stripped back my first set of 8-gauge wire. I'm using 8-gauge Bouge RV MC4 connectors. So I'll get this set up. Okay, I need the end. This is the positive, and you can tell by the red. That's connected to my Bouge RV SIGS panel. So that means I'm going to be using the male and the male connector. And basically you make the crimp, then you slide this over, and then you slide that over, and it clicks, and then you screw the two halves together, and you've made an MC4 connector. Alright, so I made that crimp, and I've put the half on. Just there, I don't know if you heard that, but there was a tiny little click. I'm going to need 2 hands to tighten that up. But you can pull on it and see it does not come out. So I'm going to tighten that up, and I'm going to go on to the next wire. Okay, now the negative is going to use the female, and it's going to plug into this one. And then I will screw this, I'll unscrew this and put it over and tighten it up to that one. So I will finish that and come back. Okay, I have to say I like the crimp made with this style uninsulated crimper, non-insulated crimper. So that's what I'm going to use for the rest of my 8-gauge MC4 connections. So after I finish this, I've just got this other one to do, so I will get those done and come back. Okay, now I wanted to let you hear that click, so listen for it. I don't know if you heard it. It was just very slight. But once you hear that little click, then you can pull on it, and you can see this is not coming off. So if this pulls off, you know you didn't push it down enough to get the click to secure it. Then you use the MC4 tools like this, so you can hold this one and tighten this one. See how they fit on there? Okay, I've got my Bouge RV panels hooked back up, and that all tidied up. So now I can get on with the rest of my installation. Now, I already went and added 2-to-1 connectors to this end because I'm going to be hooking 2 panels in parallel. So let me get my panels up here and get those on. Okay, I've got my first panel up. There's my other panel waning. Here's what it looks like. So, I am now going to run my strips of Eternabond tape down the inside of this track, and then I'll be done with this one. Okay, I have my 2 Renogy 200 watt Shadowflux panels up. I had to change my mounting strategy slightly because I just didn't have the width because of my fan over there, fan cover. Oh, that's my Max Air Deluxe fan. So because of that, I didn't have the width that I was planning for. So I couldn't have the 2 separate center bars on the tilt mounts together. So I have redesigned my mounting system to basically just share one bar, and I have the panels screwed together. I changed my mounting legs. Instead of being attached to the top and swiveling from the top, I've put them on the bottom. So when I lift up the panel, the legs just fall straight down. And then when I pick it up, I can put the center post up and then put each side up. Let's see what else. Oh, and because one panel is actually going to have to sit just slightly across my skylight here, which I don't use. As you can see, we have Reflectix covering it on the inside. So I put these little mounting feet on each side, so it keeps, and right there, so it keeps the panel raised slightly, keeps them all level. And then I'm using my connectors. The other one's hanging across over there. So then I can just use my connectors to lock it in place. And so now my very last thing is finishing up the wire. I have an extra set of MC4 connectors, cable. So I will figure that out and come back and show you what I did. Let's see how it works now. So now to hook these, I've drilled a hole in my legs. And then the way you put it up is I lift both panels up. And then I put this leg, and then I connect the other legs, and it's supported. And here's a view looking on from the back. Okay, I have all my connections made. I've left plenty of slack for the panels to move up and down. I taped them down to a roof, so this is all done, and I can put my panel down. And I've also mounted my WeBoost antenna on my ladder. So I'll just put my panels down now because I'm done. Okay, and there they are, laying down. I'm done. So it's time to turn my solar controllers back on. So the first thing you want to do is you want to connect all the battery circuit breakers first. So here's one right here. And you just flip the little yellow flag up. And down here, my battery one is way back here in the back. For my third solar controller, this is the battery. Okay, so you should see a blue light. I see a blue light flashing on all the solar controllers. Okay, so that means, so that's fine. That means the battery's connected. Now so you always connect the battery first before you connect the solar panels, because you want the power from the solar panels to have a place to go. And the place to go is the battery, not the solar controller. So now I'm going to switch on all my solar controller circuit breakers. And all the lights change to a solid blue light. Okay, so So now I can do all the settings. So I'm just going to put a picture of the settings, and I'm doing a 130 or a 150 solar controller. So you just select the capacity of output for whatever controller you have. So that would be a 30 or a 50. So I'm just going to post a picture of what the settings are, because the process for going into the Victron Connect app and calling up your solar controller is very straightforward.